Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our IT Force webinar series. We bring these sessions to you every 3 months with a simple objective, education. My name, Chris Moreno. I'm the Director of Sales at IT Force, and joining me today, we have some guests. Firstly, Jason Stitt. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Just a few notes about today's event. We are using Teams live event to present to you today. We were all at different locations brought together by our producer, Matthew Haché. For those who don't know Matt, he's our certified project manager. If you have any questions on how to create a Teams live event, please never hesitate to reach out to me. I can help you understand that better. If you have presentations you want to make to your clients or vendors. Second, we are taking questions today, which is excellent. In the top right of your screen, you're going to see a kind of a question mark bubble. That's your Q&A. You can have that open while the presentation is going and enter your questions there, which we'll be able to get to near the end. Again, thanks for joining us today, and we're going to put you back to our host, Chris Moreno.
Thank you, sir. Jason is a co-founder of IT Force, and he works with our clients every day to ensure that we're doing everything we can to make sure they meet their planned business objectives. Thanks, Jason. We also have two partners joining us. Our partners and ourselves face day-to-day shifts in our customers' markets. We see their business response to these market shifts, and our constant challenge is to ensure the technology roadmaps we set out for these clients best position them to achieve those important outcomes. In our webinar series, we highlight business trends that are causing clients to change, and we discuss how technology plays a role in adapting to these trends. So today we have two topics, cyber insurance and cloud economics, and we have two expert guests who will share their knowledge on these topics. First, I'd like to introduce Nabil Sharif. Nabil spent his career working in product development and innovation, business planning, change management for information technology. He is also the curriculum lead and instructor at the University of Toronto in the Cloud Computing Certificate Program. He holds a BSc honors from University of Ottawa and an MBA from Queen's. And currently he's the Senior Director of Product Management at Pivotree. Pivotree is a global company uniquely positioned as a one-stop shop to help companies succeed in an ever-changing digital commerce landscape. Welcome, Nabil.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you.
And congratulations to Pivotree in the recent IPO just at the end of 2020. It must be an incredibly thrilling and hectic time right now.
It's definitely been really exciting, and it's an exciting way to start off a new year where we plan to bring a lot of interesting products and services to bear.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining us. Can't wait for the subject matter. Next, I'll introduce Rob Hill. Rob provides consulting and brokerage services for his clients throughout Ontario. He's a specialist who takes an active role with his clients through written action plans with set goals, coordinates those strategies, improves safety and claims management systems, and monitors progress on those goals, all in an effort to reduce his clients' insurance costs. With experience on the underwriting side of the insurance industry, Rob provides a unique perspective to his clients on how to handle their day-to-day risks. Rob's an account manager at Jones Deslauriers, a leading insurance and risk management brokerage firm providing commercial solutions to businesses in Ontario. Welcome, Rob.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to this presentation and seminar today, and yeah, a lot of great things to cover and to talk about concerning the changes in cyber risks and how you can protect your company. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for spending the time. Rob, I'm a big proponent of being prepared and often stalk people on LinkedIn with whom I'm about to connect with. And I note your descriptor on your LinkedIn profile says, funny account manager, awesome at insurance, but just okay at hockey. How are you improving your hockey game during the pandemic? What's going on there?
Actually, I've improved it by not playing. I think I've helped out the team. I've helped out everybody else by not being a liability out there. Yeah, as we all know, going through COVID and the changes and stuff like that, I've actually played a little bit with my family, but it's always been my stress release. So I'm looking forward to getting back on the ice pretty soon, actually.
Great, thanks. So Rob, you're here because over the last several months, we, IT Force, have been receiving a growing number of requests from our clients to provide risk assessments on their IT security. What's interesting is that these requests are originating from their insurance provider. As we received more of these, we dug a little deeper, contacted you, and discovered that the insurance industry is changing. So we're pretty eager to hear from you how the industry is changing.
Absolutely. Perfect. So thank you very much again, as we talked about. So as we all know, technology and the capabilities of doing business back and forth, communicating with individuals all across the world has gone through the roof lately. It's been fantastic the way that we can speak back and forth, but at the same time, what it has done is given us opportunities for people to steal our stuff, to say it the nicest way possible. And that could be through financial gain, through your privacy, your information, and also your reputation. So over the past little while, but we'll definitely say in the past year to 18 months, what has happened is the amount of attacks on individuals' businesses and individuals' livelihood has changed, and hackers are getting better and better as they go along. So what I'd like to do today is just kind of talk about the different ideas behind the different coverages, the idea behind how to safeguard yourself, and most importantly, set a tone for you to be able to go back and have a conversation with, say, IT Force on your coverages, but also your capabilities and your security to make sure you're taken care of. Because of like insurance, especially on the cyber side, it's best suited to what you do. So not one package fits everyone. It's more what's needed for you and how you can go through it. So got a few slides that we're going to go through today, and I'm looking forward to any questions at the end. And yeah, so let's get started with it. So as we talked about, internet connectivity has been massive to the increase of businesses through the years, through online selling, online information, through the reach, constant touch, even social media. What that's done, though, is it exposed a lot of our networks and data accesses, and even interrupting the businesses by the fact that if you get, say, hacked by some malware, it can logistically shut down your business right then and there. We'll go through one of the ways to prevent that, but let's say from the example that someone opens an email and it locks you down. It's what happens from that point on how to get your reputation, your business, and let's be honest, your money to keep flowing so that you can keep going through your day-to-day. Again, with the growing insurance requirements, that's what happens in life in the insurance industry, is that once there's a true identified risk, the insurance companies actually try to find a way to reduce that risk so that it doesn't open up our clients or the individuals for other problems that they may have. With that being said, as in cyber, it's always ever changing, so the coverages are always ever changing to match what you may or may not need. Can we go to the next slide, please? Perfect. So let's go with some of the scary stuff to begin with. As in insurance, we always talk about that as your risk. It can be scary, but realistically, at the end of the day, it's just an idea to let you know where you may be and how we can fix it. 78% of Canadian companies were attacked in 2019. Actually, another stat that we can give you as well is in 2018, in Canada alone, there was $9.25 million worth of losses directly related to cyber losses. 93% of all malware was polymorphic, sorry, I can never say that word, in 2019. That means they were going directly at one shot only. If they could get in and breach you, perfect. If they couldn't, they basically moved on, you deleted it. Because again, as we'll talk later on, cybercrime is a numbers game. They're not just doing it to one, they're doing it to thousands. So when you open that email about the prince in a different country needing only you to help them out by giving your bank information, you're one of thousands upon thousands that got it that day. And they're not caring if you open it, they care that if someone opens it. So that's the idea behind that, is that they want to just blast out as much as they can. And here's the scary part, is 43% of it were all small businesses. So at 43%, that means, and I don't mean mom and pop shops, but I mean manufacturers, trucking companies that are 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 person operations. These are people that their livelihood is dedicated on that day or that month of sales. So if they're shut down, it's not like they can go to their governing body or their large corporation and say, hey, let's throw some money at it. This is what they need to do. And this could be online shopping. This could be vendors that have locations that you can order through. So there's a lot of ways that you can get attacked or affected. But at the same time, it isn't just the large company like Microsoft or PlayStation, things like that. They are going after everybody. And again, but one of the major parts too is, in with payment, it's not the old-fashioned days where, give me $5,000 and we'll move on. It's gone from 5,000 to 10,000 up to 50,000 in Bitcoin. And one of the issues with that is, once you pay someone in Bitcoin, it's gone. They can put it on their stick and they can go walk and make payments wherever they want to. That money almost becomes untraceable. So the reason that the hackers have gone that way is they can say, give us X amount of Bitcoin and money in Bitcoin. And once you have it, it's not like they're following the money anymore. Next slide, please. Different types of cyber threats. So back in the early days of the internet, back in 1997 to 2007, it was just the malicious code. They would send worms. They would find out if you were on LimeWire, if you're downloading music back in the day, and you download the wrong file and it would shut down your computer. All of that was happening back then. But then as we as a civilization got older, our ways of protecting self got older. The thing though is, hackers are always a step above you. So they changed their tactics from 2007 to 2013. They're going to social media, email, ransom attacks. Now they're going to Bitcoin. So as they're always changing, your coverages and your security has to always change at the same time. It used to be the idea behind Lone Wolf. That was one person out there that just wanted to get the satisfaction that I broke somebody down. Well, then the organized crime figured out, wait a second, if we can get multiple money from multiple people, that's pretty good for us. If there's ever have a chance, there's a great documentary, a podcast on this, and it's all about the Russian idea of the hacker idea. And it's very pointed and broken down on how these groups set out and saying, okay, we need to hit this area, so we're going to blast it as hard as we can in thousands upon thousands of contacts, because they're only looking for 1 or 2 people. Once they get that, that's where the money is in. So that's the point, is that they're always going to go after you because there's always a financial gain. And activists as well. They're going to do this from the standpoint is not the activists in terms of people looking for world peace and different ideas, but it's also where people that if they want to get their agenda or if they want to get their view out there to the masses, they need money. And by getting money is they're going out and having these attacks on businesses and corporations. And that money is then funding a political gain, not in our country, but in other countries. Sounds all very scary, because it can be. But the nice part behind this is there's different ways of protecting yourself, and there's different ways of identifying what you need to do and how you can do it to make sure that you're covered. Perfect. Now we're getting into the dollar paid analysis. So let's figure out why you need these policies, or why you need to protect yourself for a policy that could be hundreds of dollars, it could be thousands of dollars. But at the end of the day, it's what's for your business and how you're taken care of. In 2018, the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Document Act was created. This is a very, very, very important piece of legislation, because behind this is protecting us as individuals with our personal information. Well, what this has done is caused corporations, businesses, individual owners to ensure that anytime there's a breach in their confidential information about their employees, their clients, or anyone, if there is a breach, there are set guidelines and set ideas that they have to do to make sure that the public knows. If you don't do these steps, or if you do them incorrectly, unfortunately to scare you, is it can get up to a $100,000 fine per person per event. So if you have one person on there and they get their information stolen, it's 100 grand. That's a lot of money. What happens, you have hundreds or thousands as a corporation. You need to ensure that you are taken care of to make sure that your response is timely and correct, to make sure that your clients or anyone that their information has been stolen or compromised is notified. That means your access to your PR firms, your forensic system analysis. This is so vital, because if this happens to you and you don't know what to do, or you just make a payment and walk away, there are chances that that information, the malware, or whatever it may be, is still on your computer. You need a team to go in and make sure they're going through your system, making sure that everything is removed, find out the reasons why it happened, and also make an analysis of why it should never happen again.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. That's a huge number. So what you're saying is the liability limit is 100,000. So if my information got out, that's up to $100,000 of liability. But then if my information was used 3 times, that's another subsequent $300,000 of liability.
They can actually look at it that way, as if
Wow.
It
Okay.
keeps going on. And again, it's a scare tactic by the government, which was a needed one at the same time, but it is a very large number. To get to that number, there's a lot in the background that they have to do. You have to be very, very negligent. You have to be like, I don't care, and walk away.
So every company should be really responsive and advise their clients that there's been a breach. But
Absolutely.
beyond that simple communication, which is a necessity, there's a whole remediation process, and that's what you're talking to.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it's also the settlement of the claims as well. There's corporations that do not have the money to go to these cyber terrorists or hackers, or however you want to call them, that are holding you hostage. And they're saying, we need $10,000. I don't know about everybody, but if you ask me for 10 grand right now, it's going to take some time and a lot of credit cards and some line of credits. So for an everyday corporation that's doing that, that are running the best that they can, you need to make sure that you're able to take care of it and able to have that expense taken for you.
Just a note on that, Rob. I actually had to perform the task for a client, so it took 2 days. I had to drive to the clients. They had to hand me a wad of cash. I had to go to a specific bank, hand them the cash. They had to I had to create I had to deposit in a certain bank. Then I had to take the slip, tear it into 4 pieces, photograph each piece separately, send it to some no man's land or a Bitcoin buyer. Then I had to buy the Bitcoin. Then we had to get the Bitcoin transferred to the other Bitcoin account, show them that I ripped up the slip into 4 pieces, and only then did they release it, and it only partially worked. And he said, you must have been encrypted by someone else as well. So it was not a successful event. I've never carried that much money in my hands before. So it is not fun, and it doesn't work always, and it takes time.
Oh, for sure. One of the a major sector in the industry that has been affected as well is the transportation side. So as of now in Ontario and in Canada, you have to have what's called an electronic login device. So that is basically your paper trail of you docking your time and making sure that you're doing what by legal your driving hours and all that. Well, these hackers have figured out how to get into these. So let's say you're a trucking company and you're driving down and you're in Iowa. They break into it, they lock you down. You have a client you need to get to, your system is locked down, there's chances of breaches, there's so much into it that it's not just, hey, they breached me on 8 o'clock in the morning at my house or my home office and I can just go to my bank that's 2 seconds away. They're going after everybody and everything. And it's sad, to be honest with you, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're going with it. Next page, please. So now that I've scared everybody And now I've said all these horrible things on how we can do it and what we can do, and it's all doom. It's not. Is it worrisome out there? Absolutely. Is it doom and gloom? Not a chance. What the insurance companies have done is that they've created packages to suit corporations and companies and individuals. An individual person can actually even have a cyber policy. Now, some of you may be watching me speak and going, yeah, but Rob, I have this on my insurance policy. I already have that. They threw it in. Did they? Or was it a coverage that got added in that the limits are very low, or they're very, very controlled? Because if they're controlled, that means only certain things that happen would be covered. So what I make the suggestion to all my clients is that we look at either a standalone policy, which is, very detailed, very broken down, very robust. And then we also look at the policy they may have now, and then we ensure that our client is comfortable with the decision that they made. Yes, not everyone is the same, and not every policy needs to be the same. Not every company needs X amount of limits, and not every company needs X amount of coverage, but it needs to suit your business. That would be starting a trucking company and having a Chevy Cruze as your delivery. That's not going to work. You need what is important for your business, and you need to make sure that your business is covered. And we need to make sure what it's covered for, your network breaches, your business outage. That's the thing. Like, at this day, making money is important for everybody, but being down and not being able to make money, not because you've done something wrong, not because you've had a fire, not because there's been an accident, but very bluntly, because someone pushed a button and decided today was the day that you didn't need to work, is ridiculous. So you need to be up as fast and as quickly as possible. And that's what these policies in the background do. They are always changing. And I know change is a bad word sometimes, but change in insurance is a good word, because the evolution of that means that they're increasing the coverages to increase the protection. The ever-changing part used to be they want to reduce it. People like, no, let me get rid of this. I don't need that. I don't need that. Where we've looked at it as the industry of saying, you can make your decision with your IT professionals and that's an educated decision, but here's what you need to make sure that you're covered. Your reputation, I don't care what anybody says. Your name is your name. It can be your business name. It can be your personal name. It can be your lab, whatever it may be. That is important. It takes years and years to build your reputation and seconds to ruin it. We've seen what social media has done to people and to industries. So if they have it where you're doing all this and you have someone that's tweeting out and ruining your reputation, doesn't matter how fast you're going to come back up and play, it's already destroyed. So you need to have the team that's going to get you back online. Next page, please.
That's pretty enlightening, Rob. Thank you so much. This is Chris again. So when we were preparing the deck, I just love these slides where we take a moment and present, and what you've done is you've presented a pretty detailed list of questions that our audience, our clients, they can take back to their organizations and assess where they stand. We've got 2 pages for the viewers. There's 20 questions that Rob has prepared. We're not going to go through them all, but we will make them available after the webinar such that you can make use of this. And this is really on delivering to the viewers and delivering to our clients and those within our network something that's actionable, that's tangible, it's valuable, and it's intended simply to help and simply to better prepare an organization to understand what their status is. Now, in reviewing these questions, these are really familiar to us based on the clients that approached us, that were prompted to assess their security posture with questions like these. But what really caught me, Rob, is things like maybe Matt, you can flip to the next page. There's a like question number 13. Can the general public access your building, without the use of some kind of credential? As a technology company, we're often, not thinking first of the low tech risks. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, perfect question. Is the great thing about when we review our risks or review ideas, a lot of time you'll see questions that become a little silly or may not make, not that they don't make sense, but why would we ask that? The general public question is very, very simplistic, is are your computers or your building where I can walk in with a zip file or a zip drive or whatever we call it, walk into your building, walk through doors that have no lockdown, have no way to stop me from getting in there, and realistically just taking that and plug it into your computer. It is absolutely low end side. It is the back in the day style, but it still works and it still happens. The other thing it does is it stops the way for someone to record who is in that room. So if this does happen and they're like, okay, how did someone get in? If you have the key cards, if you have the check-ins, if you have the security in place, we'll be able to say, oh, Rob Hill swiped in at 9:50 and we were hacked at 9:53. Why was Rob Hill in there? Why was Rob Hill there?
Right.
Why was Rob Hill in the building?
Right.
And they call me and I say, well, I didn't have my card. My card's sitting here. Or it starts the process of how things happen.
Right. So Rob, if I'm a small company or a medium-sized company, I'm a manufacturer, I've got a bunch of people on the production floor, I've got an office staff of 20 or 40 people, and I take these 20 questions. I'll give you two scenarios. I take them back, and my answer is yes. I've got a policy that addresses each one of these items. That's company A, and then company B is whoa, I've only got a policy for one of these questions. What are the implications of both of those positions with respect to their coverage?
It defines what the limits they will have, and it will define the type of coverages that are available. And let's be honest, the price that you pay. If you do not have, let's say company A that has all of these things in place, which is wonderful. Company A should still be recording how good they're at doing that.
Right.
What's their score out of 10, so that they can rate themselves, because there are organizations that go, well, we do everything, we're fine. Yeah, but me letting my dog out back doesn't, if I leave my door open, it's still going to run away. Me saying that I was in the backyard only, there's other parts of it that can happen and other things that we want to make sure that all it's together. If your organization B with none of this, call IT Force now. Conversation. And I
shameless plug. Thank you.
Absolutely, because that's terrifying. I'll use an example on one of these questions that is about the email side, about being scammed. I've actually had this happen in my own organization. I received an email one day from my boss saying, Rob, I need to talk to you, come see me. The only reason I knew that that wasn't my boss is because he doesn't call me that. That is not the way he speaks. We always joke around. It's either hey or how you doing. There's not just Rob, do this. And when I clicked on his email address, just to see of it, there was just, instead of .com, it was like .com. Like, that's how different it can be, but his name was there, everything was there. But it's, do you have the training of your employees to make sure that they don't just open emails to open emails?
Got it.
What's the what is the guidelines and background and training that your employees have? Because you may say I threw a book at them, or did you say no, we sat unfortunately and had to do 35 minutes of training? Those are different ideas.
Thank you. So if I were to sum it up, take a measure. If I'm a client or a viewer listening to this, it's take a measure of my position now, assess my risk profile, if that's okay now. But importantly, I need to have an ongoing process to continually measure my risk, to address weaknesses, and to safeguard my operations and my data and my clients. Yes. So it's two: start measuring now and keep measuring.
It's always a consistent. You want to have your scorecard, and you want to have your where your level is, and then you're always trying to improve from there. Always remember, there's a difference between being compliant and best in class. Compliant means, hey, I made it and I'm there. Best in class means, no, we're doing everything right that we need to do.
Thank you, Rob. This was a couple of the numbers were eye-opening to me, and I've been working with you for a little bit of time on this content. So I really appreciate that, and I know that tools like this set of questions just really is valuable for so many of the clients that we work with. Thank you very much, sir.
Chris, I would just like to mention on all these items, we're finding first things first is one of the largest return on investments is activating multi-factor authentication. That's where we've seen the biggest effect. We've seen the largest number of dollars actually lost by corporations by not having multi-factor authentication. So if with all these questions, some take a longer time to address, some are quicker to address, but multi-factor authentication by being in the cloud is, and we can get into all those details at another time, but that would be the first question of all questions. Are we using multi-factor authentication in our cloud product?
So Jason, as a sales guy, whenever I log in and I get that note on my phone to approve my own login, that's what you're talking about, right?
Correct. And while you're working in safe places, you only have to do it the first time or when you get a new asset. So once you're in, it remembers who you are, so you won't get annoyed every time. It's just what happens if external people try. It points and you're like, wait a minute, someone's trying to hack me? No way, that's not happening. No.
Got it.
So it's a very effective tool.
Thank you, sir. Jason, thank you. Rob, thank you so much. Again, a reminder to the viewers, you can post any questions. There's an icon that has a question mark in it and a chat icon on the top bar of the live event session. Utilize that to enter your questions, and as well the material, the content here. We'll make this available both in recorded format and in PDF format. Okay, so let's flip the slide, please, Matthew. And we're going to move to the second half and second topic of our webinar today, which is cloud economics. And Nabil Sheriff is going to walk us through why cloud makes sense and what kind of use case scenarios, and give us some measuring sticks on how to take advantage of the technology available. Okay, Nabil.
Hi, everybody. Are you able to hear me? Thanks for having me in today. I think it's kind of an interesting segue to talk from cloud, from cybersecurity to cloud economics, because the value of cloud is sort of counterbalanced by having to consider security considerations. One of the reasons that people have moved to cloud over time, initially security and reliability were perceived concerns for people moving to the cloud. And what's sort of been proven over the past decade or more at this point is that for a lot of businesses consuming IT, if their core operations aren't around availability and security and reliability, it's best to actually outsource that to somebody who is. One of the earliest examples that I see around that is back from 2010. And I always think back to that time when the hacker group Anonymous started to become really known in the public eye. It was around, I think, the fall of 2010 when that happened. And the first thing that really sort of hit the news headlines about them was a massive coordinated DDoS attack that they did against a bunch of different retailers across the market. So I think they hit Target and Walmart and MasterCard and Visa, and managed to take down most of those systems for a period of time. And the one that really stood out that was able to withstand that attack was actually Amazon as a retailer. And that was because they had been built on their own web services, and those core operations were designed to withstand that kind of attack, which started people realizing that cloud can actually be quite good for security as well, as long as you understand your requirements and you build towards them very well. The counterbalance to that, of course, is that cloud has trade-offs in terms of security, because as secure as they want to make it, and as much as in a lot of cases their operations will be better than the average business, they have to also design their services for ease of use. And there's always going to be trade-offs with security around that. So what I really want to talk about today is cloud, either way, is one piece, what's one tool in the toolkit for building out any sort of IT strategy. And it really depends on how you want to perceive IT consumption in your business. Certainly over the past year, we've seen a lot of adoption into cloud, with everybody working from home and probably continuing to work from home beyond the era of this pandemic. Cloud usage has increased and cloud adoption has increased massively because it's an easier way to reach a more geographically dispersed user base. One of the most interesting statistics that I remember is about 3 weeks after the initial lockdown started to happen at the end of March last year, Microsoft was reporting over 700% increase in the use of their cloud resources as people moved to cloud services to be able to reach that distributed workforce. Certainly at this point, as a mature product, everybody's using cloud in some form or another. It's certainly an ideal situation for doing cloud backup and data management. But beyond that, I want to take a look at where cloud can take you and how you decide to consume cloud and picture it as an IT tool in your business. Next slide, please. Really, cloud economics is about a journey, and it's about taking a look at the baseline benefits of cloud, which is data access from anywhere, scalability, that linear cost model, ease of entry, and so on, and trying to go from cost reduction to actual economic and business benefit by using cloud as part of the tools in your toolkit. Beyond those simple baseline benefits, do you want to take a look at IT as a cost center or a revenue driver? Let me give a story here that gives a good example. I'm going to talk about two really big companies that probably everybody knows. I'm going to talk about Dropbox and I'm going to talk about Netflix. Both of these are businesses are obviously hugely successful global companies that started in cloud or moved to cloud in one way or another very quickly, and they're associated with sort of cloud technology. But interestingly, they've had very different journeys throughout their cloud adoption. Dropbox initially started entirely built on public cloud. It was built on Amazon. And over the years, I think back in 2016, they started to transition away from being built entirely on the cloud, on public cloud, and they started to build everything privately for themselves. And they've transitioned entirely to providing their services off private infrastructure that they own and control entirely, private cloud infrastructure. Netflix has actually followed the opposite journey. Netflix started entirely as a private company with their own infrastructure and their own data centers. And then in 2009, started to make the adoption to cloud, and over a period of about 5-6 years, have moved entirely to work and operate on Amazon's infrastructure. It's easy at first blush to take a look at why that might be the case. From an economics and usage perspective, Netflix has a much more sort of volatile use of their IT capacity, and moving to a cost model where they could just pay for what they're using at any point instead of having to provision out for max makes a lot of sense. For a company like Dropbox, the economics made sense once they were big enough to just start building their own infrastructure because it's really just a storage service. But beyond figuring out cost optimization, there was a revenue driver there for each of them as well. And it allowed them to do things from a business perspective that they wouldn't have been able to do before. From Dropbox's perspective, the case is fairly simple. By building their own private infrastructure at the scale that they were at, they were able to, achieve a level of purchasing power that that was advantageous to them and allowed them to get away from whatever markup they were paying on a public cloud service. They had their own IT operations that were really sophisticated and specialized for the application and the infrastructure that they were using, so it made a lot of sense. But beyond that, it also allowed them to start to optimize their infrastructure and to configure their stack and their hardware in ways that really allowed them to drive better performance per gigabyte and store more users in the same amount of space as before. And when you're talking about a storage business, that change in your cost drivers is a significant economic driver. Netflix had reasons beyond the cost structure as well to move to cloud. By moving from private cloud to public cloud and taking advantage of Amazon, it's no coincidence that in 2009, Netflix started moving to cloud, and a year later, they were expanding to their first market outside the US. Actually, right here in Canada was the first place they were available outside the US. From there, it was a very short time before they were expanding to Europe and eventually to the rest of the world. Public cloud enabled that by allowing them an easy access to entry into different markets. Rather than having to build out their own infrastructure and specialize and have data centers and commit to all sorts of costs that they would have had to deal with, they were able to experiment very quickly, try out a market, build infrastructure very quickly, optimize, and then build out into that market. But beyond that, it also allowed them to start to really optimize their network, to take advantage of different cloud native or cloud resident services and service providers in a way that you can't necessarily do so from private infrastructure. Specifically for Netflix, it really became about content delivery networking and being able to optimize both the transmission of their video, but also manage content from country to country. Anybody who's used Netflix here versus the States knows that the catalog is different, and that's for licensing reasons that Netflix has to comply to. So enabling the management of their content and enabling the optimization of their video streams by being on cloud and being able to take advantage of cloud services like Akamai or Cloudflare or whatever, really opened up their business in a way that it wouldn't have been before. So they looked at their IT posture as a revenue driver, as a market opener, as a way to take a roadmap to advanced different services that may be prohibitive or difficult for a business of any size, but especially a smaller size, to build themselves. So I sometimes say that people come to cloud for the cost, for the business case, or for the cost savings, or for the economics, but they end up staying for the flexibility, for the business model, for the access to all the really differentiating services that are out there right now, such as artificial intelligence or data analytics or data pooling or being able to manage IoT or integrate bots into their application stack. All of these things are features that are critical in today's digital era, especially with everybody working from home and consuming digitally. But for a small business, they could be prohibitive to build, prohibitive to manage, prohibitive to work. If you're on the cloud, you can just consume them as a service. Next slide. So really, I think similar to Rob's sort of questions, I put together some questions here that you really want to think about. And Chris, interrupt me if I'm going off in the wrong direction, but for me, these are questions you want to think about as you're moving to the cloud or starting to figure out your hybrid IT strategy in general. Figuring out what workloads belong where, putting them in the right place, and actually tying that to not just cost reduction, but what it can enable for your business in terms of access to new markets, access to different services, feature enhancement, ability to develop in general. Most of these questions here are really around sort of two themes when I think about it. One of them is the urgency or readiness for you to take a look at re-envisioning your IT. And the other one is about how much of a benefit or an upside you can get from some of the really critical and interesting business externalities you can develop by changing your IT posture, whether it be new markets, better product development, better access to customers, better intelligence on your users and your market in general. So that's really what to think about, how to move. There's always economic benefits, or in most cases, there's economic benefits to considering cloud as part of your IT strategy, just from a cost management and a usability perspective. But beyond that, the ability to enable different economic models, different markets, different feature sets, and a different way of doing business or accelerating your business is critical.
So Nabil, if I were to ask you a question, having just listened to you, it's probably an unfair question, but it's common. When I often hear people say, well, if you were to begin a company right now, a startup, would you start with buying a server, or would you start up in the cloud? But what I'm hearing from you is, there's more to it. There's what business what's your plan? How much are you intending to grow? How far a reach do you need? And how dependent is your business model on taking advantage of a broad range of technology? So that's what I've learned, but I'll ask you the question anyways. Would you start on cloud, or would you buy a server?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to start on cloud from a business perspective at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, if I'm starting from zero, it gets me away from a lot of investment. It allows me to, as they love to say in the business, fail fast and then figure out how to move on. But at some point, I need to actually take a look, once I've built a viable business model, product model, small customer base, whatever. Once I've hit some critical thresholds, I need to start taking a look at my IT strategy and talk about how do I want to grow and what is important to me. Is control, stability important, or is the ability to evolve rapidly something that I need to really consider?
Understood. Thank you. So flip that around then. So if I'm a medium-sized business owner, and I've been alive for 20 years, and I'm pretty steady. I know that I gain the same number of customers that might leave in a year. I know that there's not a lot of spikes in my operational volumes or transactional volumes. The business is pretty stable. So if I go through these questions and I say, well, you know what, I don't need to be scalable. Does that answer the question, or is there more? You mentioned hybrid IT. So if my business operations are stable, is there another option? Like, can I carve out some of my environment, like my users, to take advantage of cloud features and functions, or does it just stop with that initial assessment?
Well, it's really not just about how stable your business is, because the fact is the markets that you're serving are not stable, and the demands that they have are going to change over time. So while your business operations may be stable and you don't need to take advantage of the scalability or the flexibility of cloud from that perspective, you probably, I guess in almost any business in 2021, need to have better customer intelligence. You need to have better accessibility or reachability to those customers. At Pivotry, we like to talk a lot about enabling, our goal is to enable frictionless commerce in general. So the ability to access and procure services and products as simply and as smoothly as possible. In today's world, that's really important. And if you're not evolving towards that, well, maybe you're in this particular niche market that doesn't change very much year over year, but 99 times out of 100, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So at IT Force, we have a large percentage of our customers intentionally or deliberately taking a hybrid IT posture, where they have that, where they made the decision that a migration to the cloud for their business is not appropriate now, but from a user perspective, they see value in moving to collaboration platforms and enjoying the kind of enterprise class security that comes along with that. And we found that to be a workable model. Do you, what comments would you have on that kind of posture?
Well, like I said, cloud is just one tool in the toolkit. There's always certain things that you want to be able to keep in-house or have certain specific control over, or that you want to be able to perform on your own. But it's a matter of being able to take a look at your business, take a look at your application environment, and understand what applications and the business processes that tie to them would benefit from flexibility, would benefit from being able to integrate with other features that people have developed and you can consume, would be able to benefit from scalability. If there's no check marks there, then it's probably something that is an older application, then you can probably leave it in-house. At some point, you're going to have to evolve away from it, but you don't need to worry about it now. It's really about taking a look at what does my application do for my business? Would it benefit from being able to scale? Would it benefit from being able to connect with AI? Would I be able to do more if it could do different things? And then how do I integrate that? And that's where you have to turn to sometimes experts in integration or in adoption and migration to be able to understand the best way to stitch it all together. But the benefits are there.
Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, my head is spinning. There's so much information from both of our speakers. This has been really, really helpful. And again, I go back to the questions that need to be asked slide. I just think that's a ton of value, and looking forward to distributing that to the workers. Now we'll just quickly move to a question posted from one of the attendees, and the question is for Rob. Does every insurance organization now have cyber options, or will we have to move to a new provider? Rob, I'll ask you to unmute because I can't answer that question.
Yeah, sorry about that. I went to speak and then muted myself at the same time. It actually all depends who you're with. Because of the insurance industry, depending on the type of company you're with, yeah, I would say majority have a certain type, but again, the standalone policy may be the best bet. And again, the standalone policy doesn't mean that you're paying thousands and thousands. It's just that added coverage on part of it. So I would definitely have someone take a look at it and make sure that you have the right coverages.
Got it. Thank you very much. All right, so we're coming to the end of our content. I want to acknowledge again our two guests, Rob Hill, Nabil Sheriff. Really appreciate the fact that you've taken so much time to share with us your expertise. I'm eager to share it with our clients beyond this webinar, and looking forward to broaching new ground with both of you as partners in 2021. Jason, thank you for your guidance here and being an anchor for our message to our clients, and Matthew Hache in the background as the producer, managing a flawless live event on Microsoft Teams. Final reminder, if you are a user of the Microsoft collaboration platform at Microsoft Teams, you too can host a live event like this. If you have questions, Jason Stitt or our great things at itforce.ca email can receive your questions, and we'll endeavor to answer it post haste. So once again, thank you so much for everyone. We're going to end our webinar here and look forward to the next one.